I constantly felt like what Bishop was trying to do was make the gifts that God put in me conform to that ministry culture. And as a prophet, I couldn't do it. Why? And I only understood why as I began to read more outside of the church organization. And that is when I began to make the connections. I am discerning this and feeling this way. Why? Because prophets and apostles predate the church. And they are foundational offices. The reason why you have bishops, the reason why you have teachers is because you have the prophets. You wouldn't even know what the scripture said unless a prophet wrote it. The reason why we know what God's mind is because of the prophets. The prophets and the apostles are the ones who educate us according to what God's mind is. This is the reason why I knew what was going on in Mount Gilead with Apostle Thompson was a counterfeit. This was nowhere near. This was like ketchup. This was not an authentic spaghetti sauce. This was Spam. This was not steak. Okay? And it wasn't that I was better than anybody else or I thought I was spiritually superior. It wasn't. I just knew that I needed more than what I was getting there, especially in terms of where God was pulling me and leading me. And I needed to find answers that I was not getting in my church. And it began a process of God beginning to draw me closer to himself and begin to wean me from all that I knew prior to having this encounter with God. He began to wean me from my false understanding of what the body really was. And at that point, I began to enter into God's truth. And after you had an encounter with God's truth, you can't go back to a counterfeit. You just can't. When God has educated you in terms of what he is facing, how what he is facing is connected to his past issues, any struggles in eternity with the angels and with human creation, and what part God needs you and I to play in terms of being a part of his solution to those problems and the current issues that he's facing. And God begins to expose you and tell you his story. When God begins to tell you his story, and like Hosea, God is one of the most painful pictures in scripture. God and Hosea are weeping together over their unfaithful spouses. And basically God is telling Hosea, Israel is cheating on both of us. When you begin to have that type of encounter with God and you sit with God and both of you begin to weep because